Nazi soldiers fought in conflicts across 4 continents, from Arctic tundra to African deserts, leaving millions dead in their wake. These weren't just battles, they were systematic campaigns of conquest, genocide, and terror that reshaped the modern world. Please take a moment to subscribe if you want to uncover more hidden Nazi history that textbooks don't teach, because we reveal the documented evidence behind the Third Reich's most shocking military operations. The Spanish Civil War marked Nazi Germany's first military intervention, serving as a testing ground for weapons and tactics later used in World War II. The Condor Legion, comprising 19,000 German volunteers, arrived in Spain in November 1936 to support Francisco Franco's nationalist forces. German pilots flew Heinkel He-111 bombers and Messerschmitt Bf-109 fighters, gaining crucial combat experience against Soviet-supplied Republican aircraft. The bombing of Guernica on April 26, 1937, killed 1,700 civilians and demonstrated Nazi willingness to target non-combatants deliberately. German tank crews tested Panzer I and II models against Soviet T-26 tanks, learning valuable lessons about armored warfare. The Condor Legion's 88mm anti-aircraft guns proved devastatingly effective against ground targets, leading to their widespread use in later campaigns. Nazi forces conducted chemical weapons experiments using Spanish civilians as test subjects, violating international law with impunity. German intelligence officers established networks that would later facilitate Nazi espionage operations across Europe. The Spanish conflict cost 500,000 lives and provided Nazi Germany with battle-tested military units ready for larger conquests. Operation Weserübung launched Nazi Germany's invasion of Denmark and Norway on April 9, 1940, securing vital iron ore supplies and naval bases. German forces conquered Denmark in 6 hours, making it the shortest military campaign in modern history. The Norwegian campaign lasted 62 days and involved 120,000 German troops, supported by the entire Kriegsmarine surface fleet. Nazi paratroopers captured Oslo's Fornebu airport in the first major airborne assault in military history, demonstrating revolutionary combined arms tactics. The German cruiser Bulge sank in Oslo fjord after Norwegian coastal guns scored direct hits, killing 1,600 German sailors and soldiers. Nazi forces used Quisling collaborators, led by Vidkun Quisling, to establish puppet governments and suppress resistance movements. German mountain troops fought brutal battles in Arctic conditions, with temperatures reaching -40 degrees Celsius. The campaign secured Sweden's iron ore shipments through Narvik, providing Nazi Germany with 75% of its wartime iron requirements. Norwegian resistance fighters conducted 13,500 sabotage operations against German occupation forces, killing thousands of Nazi soldiers. The occupation cost Norway 50,000 civilian lives and established the template for Nazi rule across occupied Europe. Case Yellow, the German invasion of France and the Low Countries, began May 10, 1940, and revolutionized modern warfare through blitzkrieg tactics. Nazi forces deployed 3.3 million soldiers, 2,400 tanks and 2,500 aircraft in the largest military operation in European history to that point. The Ardennes breakthrough involved 1,800 German tanks crossing supposedly impassable terrain, outflanking the Maginot Line completely. Heinz Guderian's 19 Panzer Corps advanced 240 miles in 7 days, reaching the English Channel and trapping Allied forces in Belgium. The Dunkirk evacuation rescued 338,000 Allied soldiers, but left behind all heavy equipment, giving Nazi Germany complete military superiority in Western Europe. German Stuka dive bombers conducted terror bombing campaigns against civilian refugees, killing thousands of fleeing French and Belgian civilians. The Wehrmacht captured 1.9 million French prisoners of war, the largest mass surrender in French military history. Nazi forces occupied Paris on June 14, 1940, after French government declared it an open city to prevent destruction. The campaign cost France 360,000 military and civilian casualties, while German losses totaled only 157,000. The victory established Nazi Germany as the dominant European power and enabled Hitler's subsequent invasion of the Soviet Union. Operation Barbarossa, launched June 22, 1941, became the largest military invasion in human history, involving 4.5 million Axis troops across a 2,000-mile front. Nazi Germany deployed 3,800 tanks, 2,700 aircraft, and 7,200 artillery pieces in the surprise attack on the Soviet Union. The initial assault captured 600,000 Soviet prisoners in the first 3 weeks, with entire Red Army divisions surrendering or being annihilated. German Army Group Center advanced 450 miles toward Moscow in 18 days, the fastest military advance in modern warfare. The Einsatzgruppen death squads followed German combat units, murdering over 1 million Soviet Jews and communist officials in mass shooting operations. Nazi forces implemented the Commissar Order, executing captured Soviet political officers in violation of international law. The siege of Leningrad lasted 872 days and killed 1.1 million civilians through starvation, disease, and bombardment. German forces reached the outskirts of Moscow in December 1941, but were repelled by Soviet counterattacks in temperatures reaching -35 degrees Celsius. The campaign ultimately cost Nazi Germany 4 million military casualties and marked the beginning of their eventual defeat. Soviet civilian deaths totaled 27 million, making the Eastern Front the deadliest theater in human history. The North African campaign began with German Afrika Korps deployment in February 1941, supporting Italian forces against British Commonwealth armies. Erwin Rommel arrived in Tripoli with 21,000 German troops and immediately launched offensive operations that recaptured Italian territorial losses. The Desert Fox earned his nickname through brilliant tactical victories at Gazala and Tobruk, capturing 33,000 British prisoners and vast quantities of supplies. German forces adapted European blitzkrieg tactics to desert warfare, using superior coordination between tanks, artillery, and aircraft. The Afrika Korps advanced to within 60 miles of Alexandria, threatening British control of the Suez Canal and Middle Eastern oil supplies. Nazi forces conducted brutal treatment of captured Allied soldiers, particularly targeting Jewish personnel and executing prisoners in violation of Geneva Conventions. German supply lines stretched 1,400 miles from Tripoli to the front lines, making logistics the decisive factor in desert operations. The Second Battle of El Alamein in October 1942 marked the turning point, with British forces destroying 500 German and Italian tanks. Rommel's retreat covered 1,400 miles in 70 days, abandoning Libya and Tunisia to Allied forces. The campaign cost Nazi Germany 620,000 casualties and eliminated their last chance to secure Middle Eastern oil resources. Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of North Africa in November 1942, prompted massive German reinforcement of Tunisia with 250,000 troops. Nazi forces established defensive positions in the Atlas Mountains, creating a fortress that required 6 months of brutal fighting to overcome. The Battle of Kasserine Pass in February 1943 marked the first major engagement between German and American forces, resulting in 6,500 American casualties. German Tiger tanks made their North African debut, with single vehicles destroying entire Allied tank platoons, using superior armor and firepower. The Tunisia campaign became a meat grinder that consumed the last experienced German units in Africa, including elite paratroopers and panzer divisions. Nazi forces conducted scorched earth tactics during their retreat, destroying ports, railways, and civilian infrastructure across Tunisia. The final Axis surrender at Cape Bon on May 13, 1943, netted 275,000 German and Italian prisoners, more than Stalingrad. German U-boats attempted to supply surrounded Axis forces but lost 47 submarines to Allied air and naval attacks. The campaign's end eliminated Nazi Germany's presence in Africa and opened the Mediterranean to Allied shipping. The defeat cost Hitler his most experienced desert warfare specialists and marked the beginning of Axis retreat on all fronts. The Battle of Stalingrad began August 23, 1942, and became the deadliest single battle in human history, costing 2 million total casualties. German Sixth Army, comprising 330,000 soldiers, advanced into the city expecting quick victory, but encountered fanatical Soviet resistance. Nazi forces controlled 90% of Stalingrad by November 1942, but could never eliminate the final Soviet defenders, clinging to the Volga riverbank. German soldiers fought house-to-house battles in ruins, with average life expectancy for new arrivals measured in days rather than weeks. Operation Uranus, the Soviet counter-offensive launched November 19, 1942, encircled the entire German Sixth Army in a massive pincer movement. Hermann Goering promised to supply the trapped army by air but delivered only 94 tons daily instead of the required 500 tons. German soldiers resorted to cannibalism during the final weeks of the siege, with temperatures reaching -30 degrees Celsius. Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus surrendered on January 31, 1943, becoming the first German field marshal ever captured alive. Only 91,000 German soldiers survived to enter Soviet captivity, with fewer than 6,000 eventually returning to Germany. The defeat marked the turning point of World War II and began Nazi Germany's irreversible retreat on the Eastern Front. Operation Citadel. The Battle of Kursk, launched July 5, 1943, represented Nazi Germany's last major offensive operation on the Eastern Front. German forces assembled 780,000 troops, 2,700 tanks and 2,050 aircraft for the assault on the Kursk salient. The Wehrmacht deployed new Tiger and Panther tanks alongside Ferdinand tank destroyers, hoping superior technology would overcome Soviet numerical advantages. Soviet forces prepared elaborate defensive positions with 20,000 artillery pieces, 6,000 anti-tank guns, and 400,000 mines across 3 defensive lines. The Battle of Prokhorovka on July 12, 1943, involved 1,200 tanks in the largest armored engagement in military history. German advances penetrated only 25 miles in 8 days of fighting, far short of their operational objectives. Nazi forces lost 200,000 casualties and 760 tanks, losses they could never replace given Germany's declining industrial capacity. The Soviet counteroffensive, Operation Polkovodets, Rumyantsev, recaptured Kharkov and pushed German forces back 150 miles. The defeat eliminated Nazi Germany's strategic reserves and ensured permanent defensive posture on all fronts. Kursk marked the end of German offensive capability and guaranteed eventual Soviet victory in the east. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising began April 19, 1943, when 750 Jewish fighters attacked German forces attempting final deportations to extermination camps. SS Oberfuhrer Jürgen Stroop commanded 2,090 German troops, including regular army units, police battalions and Ukrainian auxiliaries against the ghetto defenders. Nazi forces used flamethrowers, explosives and poison gas to destroy buildings and bunkers where Jewish fighters had taken refuge. The uprising lasted 27 days, longer than the entire German conquest of Poland, demonstrating extraordinary courage against impossible odds. German forces systematically burned the ghetto building by building, killing an estimated 13,000 Jews during the fighting. Stroop's daily reports documented the destruction with photographs, creating evidence later used in war crimes prosecutions. The suppression cost German forces 300 casualties, while completely destroying the Warsaw Ghetto and its 56,000 remaining inhabitants. Nazi forces deported surviving Jews to Treblinka extermination camp, where they were murdered immediately upon arrival. The uprising inspired resistance movements across occupied Europe and demonstrated that Jews would fight back against Nazi genocide. Stroop was executed in 1951 for war crimes, but the ghetto's destruction eliminated Warsaw's Jewish community forever. Operation Overlord. The D-Day landings on June 6, 1944, caught German forces unprepared, despite extensive Atlantic Wall fortifications along the French coast. Nazi Germany deployed 58 divisions in Western Europe, but concentrated most forces at Pas-de-Calais, expecting the main invasion there. The German 352nd Infantry Division at Omaha Beach inflicted 4,700 American casualties, but could not prevent the beachhead establishment. Rommel's absence from Normandy on June 6 delayed German armored counterattacks by crucial hours, allowing Allied forces to consolidate their positions. The Wehrmacht's 21st Panzer Division launched the only significant German counterattack on D-Day, but was repelled by Allied naval gunfire and air support. Nazi forces lost air superiority completely, with the Luftwaffe managing only 319 sorties, compared to 14,674 Allied flights on D-Day. German coastal artillery batteries at Point du Hoc had been moved inland, making the costly American assault unnecessary. The Atlantic Wall's fixed fortifications proved ineffective against concentrated Allied assault, with most bunkers bypassed rather than destroyed. German reinforcements took days to reach Normandy due to Allied air attacks on transportation networks and Hitler's refusal to release reserves. The successful landings opened the long-awaited Second Front and began Nazi Germany's final collapse in Western Europe. The Battle of the Bulge, launched December 16, 1944, represented Nazi Germany's last major offensive operation of World War II. German forces assembled 410,000 troops, 1,400 tanks, and 2,600 artillery pieces for the surprise attack through the Ardennes forest. The initial assault achieved complete tactical surprise, with American forces suffering 19,000 casualties in the first 3 days of fighting. Nazi paratroopers conducted Operation Stosse, dropping behind American lines to capture key road junctions, but most units were scattered and ineffective. The siege of Bastogne became the battle's focal point, with the 101st Airborne Division holding the town against overwhelming German attacks. SS units executed 84 American prisoners at Malmedy, committing war crimes that stiffened Allied resistance throughout the campaign. German fuel shortages crippled armored operations, with many tanks abandoned when they ran out of gasoline rather than being destroyed in combat. The weather cleared on December 23, allowing Allied air power to devastate German supply columns and troop concentrations. American counterattacks beginning December 26 pushed German forces back to their starting positions within 2 weeks. The offensive cost Nazi Germany 120,000 casualties and eliminated their last strategic reserves, ensuring rapid collapse on all fronts. Thanks for watching, and check out the channel for more videos.